for Iran's future. I'm delighted to be able to chair the opening of this session and welcome you all to here. This is a subject that for me has been very important over a number of years because the regime in Iran, without doubt, is causing immense damage to the people of Iran and is seen to be a force for evil throughout the world, in my view. So we've got three brilliant speakers, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time making introductory remarks about that. We've obviously got a lot of depth of knowledge here. There'll be an opportunity for people to ask questions at the end after the presentations. So let me introduce you to the speakers. I think, forgive me if I get your names wrong in terms of pronunciation, but I'll do my best. On my left to your right is Mr. Amir Abbas Fakrava, who has been jailed in Iran because of his being a dissident. He's an award-winning writer, a university lecturer, and the recipient of the prestigious Annie Taylor Award. He's the founder of the National Iranian Congress and president of the Iranian Freedom Institute in Washington, D.C. He spent over 5 years in jail in Iran and has since testified before the Senate Homeland Security Committee and the House Foreign Affairs Committee on US-Iran relations, foreign policy, US government broadcasting, and Iran's nuclear issues. In addition to this, he's been a foreign affairs and Iran expert at many major news outlets, including Fox News and CNN. And obviously, as we're looking at the nuclear future and what will happen, it's absolutely relevant that we hear from you. So I'll hand over to Amir, if you would like to speak first and speak to our audience, and then I'll come and introduce the other guest speakers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us, Dr. Mendoza. Thank you so much, Jamila and the entire Engineering Society's team, and the great, amazing audience here, and everybody are listening to us right now. Without just killing the time, let's go back to 2.5 years ago when I was here last month. I was speaking at the Society's event at the Parliament, and I mentioned we will have the protests all over the country soon. In a couple of weeks, we had protests in 200 cities. Millions of people that came out, and something unbelievable happened. Mr. Supreme Leader himself ordered to kill the protesters, assassinate them in streets in all those 200 cities. And Qasem Soleimani, the head of Quds Force, IRGC commander, he took care of that, and they killed the kids in the street with snipers. They hired the foreigners as terrorists, the Hashd Shabi from Iraq, the Hezbollah from Lebanon, Houthis from Yemen, Fatimiyun from Afghanistan, and Zainabiyun from Pakistan. They hired them to kill the protesters in the street. That was a bloodbath all over the country. And after that, I guess the history changed in Iran. And I was hoping nobody else is going to talk with this regime anymore, because we cannot find any other dictator now or any time in history that you can track and see, oh, that dictator gave order to kill the people directly in the street with snipers. This never happened. The Supreme Leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, is the only one who have done it. And he should be banned everywhere. And he should be in court, international criminal court, for that. But yes, for last 43 years, Iranian people, more than anybody else in the planet, more than anybody else on the Middle East or in the world, everybody, we know this regime, Islamic regime of Iran, it's bothering a lot of people around the world. But more than everybody else, 90 million Iranian people, they are living under this nightmare. The regime of small group of fanatic mullahs in power who are saying we are picked by the God and then by 12 imam. And then they have the power to send the people to jail, to kill them, to torture them, kill them in the street, and still whatever entire society of Iran, entire people they have, and nobody can say anything to Supreme Leader and his allies because they are picked by the God. That's the craziest thing we can see. But believe it or not, it's all written in their constitution. Yeah, we do have problem in the constitution in Iran. Everybody else, they are looking at something else, somewhere else, but no, the problem is exactly inside the constitution. Because the constitution of Islamic Republic of Iran gave the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, the power of God. Said, you can kill whoever you want. You can have all the money in the country. And nobody can ask him, why? What are you doing? This is coming from the constitution. The constitution, when it was introduced to the human history, the constitution is supposed to limit the power, to don't let any person or any entity have the ultimate power, to don't let the power be centralized in the hand of any person or entity. But Iranian constitution bringing all the power to the hand of supreme leader. That's totally wrong. And another big problem the constitution in Iran has is the official religion. If you have official religion, then you don't have equality anymore. Because the Shiaism, Shia Muslims, are the first-class citizen in Iran, based on the constitution. In the constitution, we have first-class citizen, second-class citizen. It's wrong. Then, we decided, after years of fighting with this regime, to go to the root of the problem. And let me have the honor to give you as a gift the draft constitution, our organization, National Iranian Congress. We worked for more than 20 years, 2 decades, to prepare this constitution, which is unique, because this constitution can work for 2 systems at the same time. If the people of Iran, after the end of this regime, which is coming soon, the regime doesn't have any legitimacy inside the country and outside the country. This regime cannot stand. It will fall soon. And if the people wanted to have monarchy in Iran, this constitution can work for it. If the people voted to have the Republic of Iran, again this constitution, without even changing one single word, can work. This is the reason this draft is unique. Because we had planned to bring the 2 big chapters in our oppositions, the monarchists and the supporters of Republic of Iran, to bring them together. And that was the solution for it, to look at a constitution to be the leader of our movement and then the leader of Iran in future, not any person, the constitution. This idea was exciting enough 2.5 years ago, when I was talking here. For the first time, I started talking about this constitution, not introducing it officially like now, but I started to talk about it. And after this event, I went to Manato TV to talk about it. And one of the young guys in Iran called Mehdad Moinkar, he saw that interview. He really loved it and said, wow, that's interesting. That's something we can go and fight and die for it. He posted my interview about our meeting here at the Parliament 2.5 years ago on his Instagram page, and that was the last post he has. Because then he went to the street and he was shot in the chest by snipers from IRGC. Thousands of our great freedom fighters, they have been killed in 48 hours then. Then, this is something, the constitution, that it proved the people of Iran, the new generation, they are ready to fight for it and to die for it, to make Iran free of the mullahs first, free of the Russians' influence, and then free and democratic. Hopefully, you all can help us, and specifically from the UK Parliament, we can help to just pass this message to everyone. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Amir, and I think we should give him a round of applause. I should have, of course, said at the beginning, thank you to the Henry Jackson Society for allowing us to have this meeting. And to introduce myself, I'm Bob Blackman, Member of Parliament for Harrow East. And indeed, I've been quite outspoken, as most people know, about the nuclear deal and also other relations with Iran. And in fact, since we've now managed to proscribe in this country both Hezbollah and Hamas, our next target is the IRGC, for it to be proscribed as a terrorist organisation and its assets sequestered. So that is our next aim in this country, to convince the government to do that. Our next speaker is Perez Schachter, a French political analyst and commentator on the Middle East. Catherine is a former consultant for the UN Security Council on Yemen's war economy, and her research was instrumental in better understanding Yemen's political landscape and the actors' financial interests. She's currently a columnist for the Times of Israel. As the only Western media personality to have been granted an interview with the now President Ibrahim Raisi, and once a close friend to Nader Talabazza, Catherine has had a front seat to the inner workings of the Islamic Republic, but we won't hold it against you.
No.
Over to you, Catherine.
Well, first of all, thank you, Alan, from the Henry Jackson Society, for organising the event. I'd like to elaborate on some of the points that Amir did in relation to not just the inner workings of the Islamic Republic, because I had a front row seat to how its agenda is being carried out, the security apparatus, the propaganda, how it's projecting its narrative across the world, and I have to say that we have failed tremendously at trying to pinpoint the many ways that it's influencing our media, social media, obviously, and I have to say certain state officials, both might it be in the UK, in France, in the EU, and in the US. And I think this is something that we need to look at. But not only that, I'd like to build on what Amir said in relation to Russia and the role that Russia has in not only propping the Islamic Republic, but literally turning the Islamic Republic into a clan state of Russia. And the first point I would like to make is that for about 4 decades now, we have been living under the impression that the Islamic Republic came by way of a revolution. And I have news for you, it wasn't a revolution, it was a Russian coup against the Shah. And the people of Iran, 80 million of them, have been hijacked, have been lied to, have been oppressed and repressed. They're living under, and those are the words that were actually given to me by Iranians through letters, and I've actually written a column for the Times of Israel about it. They have told me time and time again that the flag that they live under is a foreign one, it's not theirs. The writing on that flag is not Farsi, it's Arabic. The religion that Iran was imposed upon is not native to the land. It's an import, it's a product of colonialism, Islamic colonialism. I'm not passing judgment, I'm just saying. The people sitting today at the leadership are not native to Iran, they are foreigners. And they are acting for a foreign agenda. That is not Iranian, not in the interest of Iranians, does not represent the language and the narrative and the politics of the Iranians. And I think it's important. And I can tell you from experience, because I have seen and I have studied the Islamic Republic for many, many years. I have traveled to the Islamic Republic. I actually sat, a few meters across Ali Khamenei. I have met with General Qasem Soleimani. I have, I would say, held a friendship with Nader Talebzadeh, who passed away. He's the one who facilitated my interview with Ibrahim Raisi. I was actually privy to his whole campaign trail, because I followed him on his campaign trail. I traveled in it wasn't a presidential plane then, but his private plane. I have sat across countless high-ranking Sepah officers. I have met with Basij. I have met with everything that builds the Islamic Republic. So I know how it works, I know how it speaks, I know how it moves, I know how it thinks, and I know what it wants. And again, in relation to the JCPOA, I would urge you to not, pay lip service to Iran and by the way, Russia, because as far as I know, as of today, Russia is actually arguing that it wants to be the one party that will hold Iran's accountable for sticking to the terms of the JCPOA. And I hope that you understand that it's a farce on all of us, because Russia is behind the Islamic Republic. So asking Russia to ensure that the Islamic Republic is actually keeping to the terms of the JCPOA is the greatest joke of all. And it's on us. And our security is at stake. And not just that, it's not just the region's security, by the way, and Israel, because of the anti-Semitic language. Everything that the Islamic Republic has done has polluted the public discourse in the way that we think in the region, in the way that we think across the world, the way that it has hijacked our liberal democracy and turned liberalism on its head and made it something that is abominable, that is not defending the people and their right to have a liberal democracy the way that it was meant to be, not this kind of cultural Marxism that we witness today. The fact that Iran, managed quite successfully, by the way, to rebrand anti-Semitism under anti-Zionism and tell you that Israel is a colonial power, which is not. We are indigenous, and I'm Jewish, by the way. We are indigenous to the land. So to try to rewrite history, to try to reinvent our language and use the words that we know against ourselves, to try to, again, hijack our political movement and to make it something else, in something that is typically Russian. This is something that the Soviet Union has done for decades, and it's not because the Soviet Union fell that it disappeared. It just reinvented itself. And the Islamic Republic is on the front line in terms of carrying its agenda. Now, if you were to look at Hamas, Hezbollah, the PLO, and all the other iterations of terror that are being sponsored by the Islamic Republic today, and you see their footprint in Africa, Latin America, Asia, and Europe, I have news for you. Russia is right behind it. The interest that Islamic Republic are pushing, for example, in Algeria, in several countries in Africa, are the interests of the Russian Republic today, economically speaking. They're looking to hijack natural resources, and you can see today that we are, being threatened by an energy crisis that has been architected by Russia. And I believe that not too long ago, the Islamic Republic came up with a beautiful idea to say, we can give you gas. And I would urge the UK to stand against it for a simple reason, is that if you do that, the sanction that we have slapped on Russia would be void, because it would use the Islamic Republic to sell their oil and their energy. And it would be foolish to think that, delisting the RSGC from the terror list would help anyone. The Islamic Republic is not the party that you want to have a JCPOA with, or any deal for that matter. What you need is to rid Iran of its regime, to disappear this Islamic Republic, which is it's not a republic. Again, I have sat with, I think back then he was trying to become president, and I was told, not just by him and his entourage, that he wasn't going to win those elections, but the next one. So if you are indeed living in a democratic state, how can you predict the outcome of an election a few days before it's being held? And even worse, predict what is going to happen in 4 years' time. You cannot, unless it's actually architected. And there's nothing democratic about the Islamic Republic. You can only see what Amir was saying about people being shot in the street. If you think the wrong way, Basij will arrest you. You will get thrown in jail and tortured. Your family will be held ransom. I have witnessed it. I have sat across those people, and I urge you to listen to what we have to say, because we have witnessed the horror of the Islamic Republic. And if we do not hear those warnings, they will come to our borders. And if you pay attention again, Russia is at Ukraine's border, the EU borders, our borders. The Islamic Republic was asked Russia asked the Islamic Republic and Syria. President Bashar al-Assad was in Tehran not too long ago to send their militias to Ukraine to fight alongside Russia. So this war is our war. It's not just the Iranians. It's not just Ukraine. We are all at stake. And I would beg you to pay attention to what's happening to our democracies. by the behest of Russia and the Islamic Republic. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Catherine. I think a big
Question and answer session. And it doesn't mean if I'm sitting on the chair of a parliament member, I'm a parliament member, it can be a good dream in our country. Okay, who want to go first?
Stand from Parliament will vote for you.
Just one vote I got, but I need millions of votes. But the biggest problem is I don't want to be in politics after Iran is free and democratic. I will be totally out of politics. Just I will fight until we will have such a constitution in power, and then I can go and write for the kids some stories to tell them how they should be careful to don't let the dictatorship comes again to our country. And go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for this presentation and event. My question is, that has always been a rumor, an idea, a thought that the Iranian regime is trying to export its understanding to other relatively more Islamic countries to increase its legitimacy. And how would you comment on this
Exporting the revolution, they said that from the Sudur al-Inqilab, from the start they said that.
Exactly, and would that impact your cause, or how would you defend on that approach, or is it an important thing?
I guess the mullahs in their import-export business, they are bankrupt because nobody cares about them anymore, and everybody, they hate them. And sadly, since they are calling themselves the leaders of Iran, around the world, the people, they are looking at us, Iranians, they're looking at us as terrorists. It's the result of the mullahs' behavior and act. Iranian mullahs, small group of fanatic mullahs, as I said all the time, they are not Iranian, they are not Persian. It was invasion by them. And we should just come together, help each other to get rid of them, and make Iran free and great again. We have 2,700 years of amazing history of governing, and we kind of taught the world how to do that. And right now, some mullahs like the Taliban in Afghanistan and mullah in Iran, they are the same. And they are governing Iran. It's the saddest nightmare in human history. Next question. I want to say welcome to Mr. Farhudi, Vijan Farhudi, and from Bayan TV, the owner of Bayan TV. Mr. Farhudi, you're too quiet. Do you have any?
I'm just listening.
Oh, okay, good. And Dr. Hossein.
May I welcome you here to the Parliament of British great democracy. It is a pleasure to welcome you here. Mr. Fakhravar is an army on his own, and when you see him talking on Clubhouse, thousands of people listen to him. This is good news. Mr. Fakhravar, one point is that whenever we have all the conditions right for a change, we see that certain countries suddenly wake up and then they support the Iranian government. We remember some times ago when the Iranian regime was on the verge of change, President Obama. He said
he sent them $150 billion and $1.8 billion in cash.
And he said we stretch our hands towards the Iranian government.
Dr. Rosenberg, the problem was to not understanding Iran's problem. That was exactly the problem. Iran's problem is not about the behavior of these mullahs. It's about the constitution. And you know what? We at the opposition, we needed to understand this problem first, to then talk with the people about it, and then talk to the world and tell them, look, this constitution has a problem. If IRGC doing the terrorist job all around the world, It's coming from the constitution. Islamic Republic's constitution is letting them do that. It's letting them to use Iranian petrodollars to support all the terrorist groups in the Middle East and all around the world. It's all written in Islamic Republic's constitution, word by word. And if we want to fix the problem, until that constitution is in place, the Islamic Republic's constitution, the mullahs will be the same and it will not be any behavior change. We, the opposition, we need to brief the world leaders to make sure they are not making the same mistake again, to think, oh, let's go and be nice to the Iranian mullahs and then they will be nice. No, it will not happen. We need to change this regime, change the constitution, have a democratic constitution in place, and then the rest of the problem will be fixed. Thank you, Dr. And let me, and can you introduce yourself too?
Hi, I'm Kiara, and I just wanted to ask a question to all of you on how would there be a surge of a smooth transition of power from the regime that we see now of being more authoritarian into something that is more democratic, or whatever the people wish it to be? How would there be a smooth and peaceful transition?
You said Kiara, am I right? Kiara, it doesn't exist such a thing, smooth transition, when we are talking about revolution. Freedom is not free. And all around the world, the people, they paid the price of freedom. Here in this building, in 1688, at the UK Parliament, it's called the Bloodless Revolution. But it was not really the Bloodless Revolution. It was glorious revolution, because decades before, it was a civil war here. A lot of people, a lot of blood was in the street. It happened, then the forces could come together and find the best solution in this building. We need to just go to that path. The American founding fathers, they went to the same road too. The French Revolution, they did the same too. We cannot just say, oh, we are going for civil disobedience and the change will happen. No, the Iranian mullah will not let you to change the system, because this system is making them rich. It's a lot of petrodollars there. And you need to fight with them. And the Iranian people right now, the new generation, they are fighting with the regime in the street. Nobody can say they are not fighting. Specifically, after the November 2019, when more than 200 cities, millions of people, they were out, and thousands of them, they were shot in the head and chest by snipers with the order of Mr. Supreme Leader. And the job was done by Qasem Soleimani, who have been quoted later by President Trump. But it shows the Iranian people, they are fighting. Right now we are talking with each other. All over the country, it's a protest. Right now, literally, it's a protest. In all the streets, the people, they are fighting. And this time the people are hungry. The civil disobedience is not working anymore. Probably in some schools it will work. It's good feeling, but we should pass it. Self-defense is more reliable right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. First of all, really great presentations from the three of you. And I absolutely agree, because the Constitution of the Islamic Republic, I've actually looked at it. There are so many articles there. I think there are upwards of something like 170 articles there. And each article, especially when it goes...
Something like
something
that.
like
Crazy.
that, yes.
We don't need that many articles.
No.
Our Constitution has just 7 articles.
Okay, good.
And the United States Constitution has 7 articles. But Khamenei wrote this Constitution.
But I was going to actually say that when you look at these items, these articles of the Constitution, the ones that relate to fundamental rights are very interesting, because each of them says you can do whatever you want unless you do something that is against the tenets of
goes
Islam.
To Islam.
And now, who is going to interpret the tenets of Islam?
Jannati.
Of course. So it is not even Jannati, no. It is the Supreme Leader.
Jannati is a symbol.
Because the Supreme Leader is the head of the judiciary, he is the head of the executive, and he is the head of the kind of, parliament, technically. So anything, none of these institutions are able to actually reinterpret what is which is really a dictatorship. And I was just going to ask Catherine a question. That was really a very interesting insight that you had on, and I believe I have actually been working on the impact of China and the impact of Russia in the past 5 years on human rights, especially China with the Belt and Road Initiative. How is the expansion of the Belt and Road Initiative influencing, impacting on human rights? It was quite interesting, and I agree with you that Russia has got a lot to do with what is happening in Iran. But there is also one question that is always a vague question and is not really properly answered, and that is the there seems to be some kind of agreement between the Russian and the Israeli governments in attacking Iranian positions in Syria, because if you look at the way these attacks have taken place, they've always been successful. Technically, Israel attacks Syrian positions.
Yeah, I guess you got the other question.
And so I don't know. The question is that really, I mean, is that just a rumor, or is there something more?
Whether this cooperation between Israel and Russia?
Yeah,
I would say it's more a status quo and understanding that, for example, the Golan Heights is something that Israel would never let go of for obvious, existential reasons. The other important element, I think, is that Russia is not that interested in Syria. There's a lot of disdain for Bashar al-Assad. So they're not really that invested, and they're quite happy allowing Israel to do whatever it needs to do in Syria in order to keep itself safe. So it's kind of it's an interesting relationship, but it's not a relationship by way of collaboration per se. It's more, you keep to your corner there, and I'll keep to my corner, and I would not challenge you too much, even though Israel is very much aware of the fact, for example, that the Islamic Republic is acting at the behest of Russia when it comes to anti-Zionism. And I think that, the recent comments that the Russian foreign minister made in relation to the Holocaust and maybe the nature of Ukraine's regime were rather kind of telling of the kind of anti-Semitism that we're really talking about coming out of both Russia and the Islamic Republic, as they literally mapped on each other.
Thank
so
you.
Again, Israel is not, very much aware of what's going on.
Thank you so much. Mr. Doran, do you have any question, or you are listening to?
Yes, you are listening, but actually my main question to you, Mr. Fakro, as the leader of opposition.
Not the leader of opposition, no.
Not the leader of opposition.
Just I'm part of the National Iranian Congress. I'm just the soldier.
Why Iranian opposition so divided?
میخوای آبروی خودمون رو ببریم به انگلیسی بگیم یا به فارسی بگیم؟ از بس حسودن. I don't want to say it in English. Should I say it? Jealousy? No, I don't want to say it. No. That's the problem. And sorry, Dr. Mendoza.
No, you have to. No. Basically, you meant jealousy. That is the part of the political activism. They are always the one they want to get the power, the one they get power. It is all over the world, but Iran is separate. Regarding, I come to my question. Basically, the Iranian.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh yeah. My name is Schachter. I am a Kurd from Khorasan.
Okay.
Basically, many of Iranian people, when they hear the ethnic groups Kurd or Baluch or whatever, suddenly they go to separatism. But as a Kurd of Khorasan, nobody can accuse me to separatism, because Khorasan is completely in the border with Afghanistan. So we cannot separate that part of the Iran to attach to Afghanistan.
Let's just ignore the separatists. They are not Iranian, and let's don't waste our time on them. Let's talk about the Iranians.
The constitution, basically, when your colleague mentioned about 106 and the Mashruta's constitution.
Yeah, Dr. Alassi mentioned 1906.
1979, basically, they said, Khamenei said himself, this been narrated about Khavasiyun, Awami separate, which is we people, and Khawas, which is theirs. So basically, a small group of the people, which Fakhr said, written that constitution. But it is good news now. I heard from Mr. Fakhr many times that this is come to Iranian people. And any groups or any parties or whoever, they have to write their own constitutions and they bring their own what they wanted. So we, from our organization, we have written our own constitution, which today I just sent to Mr. Fakhawa. He has written themselves. So I, as a person who prepared that,
you drafted and then another
not me,
constitution,
just others.
proposed constitution. Yeah.
I really happy to many other groups of the Iranian people to what they
That's the great point.
And
you know,
we gather the common points and then make our country great again.
Yeah, you know what? It's really good. We love to see that. Yeah, National Iranian Congress. We drafted this one and we think this is the best one, but we want to see hundreds of constitutions, the draft proposed constitutions from different groups in opposition. Then the people will have more chance to pick and choose which one is the best one.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a competition. I wish one day in our opposition fights, we can go to this level of competition, to have our constitutions in our hand, show it to each other instead of jealousy, destroying each other, just see which one the people will like more. This is the way it should work. And it is great that you wrote another one. I want to see that. I love to see that.
And my question is, you just mentioned here, after the free Iran, you are going to retire from politician. But if you do that, again, Iranian, because you have created new terms, political term in the Iranian political scene, which has come to other Western country and liberal democratic region. So if people like yours say, okay, I'm going to leave, then Iran go to the left.
You know why I'm saying I will leave politics? Because I trust this document. I know when you have a good constitution, look at the United States Constitution, the first written constitution on the planet. That constitution brought the longest republic standing. More than, it is almost 240 years. The republic is there. And the UK has unwritten constitution, and look, the democracy. It can be the monarchy or republic. Both can work, can bring democracy and freedom. But we need to have a good constitution. Then the people doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter if it's Prince Reza Pahlavi, Amir Fakhrar, or whoever. It should be, all the focus should be on the constitution. And I trust this one. Thank you.
I'm going to cut in because I've been told we need to leave the room by 6. I'll end now because basically we've heard the main arguments and here's the important point. I want to thank our speakers, and always you've given such passion and power to the language of freedom in Iran. And as you quite rightly stated, I think it's very interesting to note, a political leader who doesn't want to be a political leader if the document that he has suggested comes into power. And if you read that document, you'll see it's got nothing to do with his sort of personal issues. It is a constitution for the Iranian people, which the Iranian people would work in. And in this last exchange as well, significantly, this is about the Iranian opposition working together to come up with a better solution for the Iranian people. So, Amir, thank you. Catherine, thank you for your expertise, of course. I think, your insights from the top table, as it were, of the Iranian regime are fascinating to people to understand. Sanaz, your knowledge of the legal side, the constitutional side, again, can only be a benefit to Iran's people as they struggle to achieve that goal of freedom. So from our perspective, the Henry Jackson side, it's a pleasure to have a forum with all of you to discuss these ideas and to see where it leads. So I'd like to thank our guest speakers for having joined us today. Please do thank them as well, and we look forward to seeing you again on other occasions soon.
And let's give a round of Thank you so much. You have been an amazing friend, and definitely in free and democratic Iran, we will have you as one of the amazing guests there at the presidential palace, or who knows, the king's palace, which I will not mention. Thank you so much. تمام معنا داره شکل میگیره. من به شخصه با تمام اسناد و مدارکی که دیدم اعتقاد دارم در سال 1957 تو ایران انقلاب نشد، این یک کودتا بود.